Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I think we're having a few more people in the waiting room coming in, so we'll give it one more minute and we'll get going. All right, I think we'll get going. So thank you everybody for joining us today. Before we dive into the materials, just wanted to give a quick couple of introductions to the team. So I'll let Ben and Isa start us off.
Great. Nice to meet everybody. Ben Garthwaite. I lead Pegasus Insights overall here at Impact Point. My background is in a mix of finance and technology. Been with Craig and Impact Point for about 3 years now. Obviously have a lot of experience in cash flow modeling and reporting packages, and really all of the services that exist under the office of the CFO. Done about a dozen or about 2 dozen cash flow models. And yeah, have also sat in the seat of an interim VP of finance. I'll hand it to Issa to let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. My name is Isa Antonini or Isabella Antonini. I've been with Impact Point since about September, leading their product organization for Pegasus Insights specifically. My background's been in technology, building really fantastic digital products for a variety of different clients and industries. So super excited about what we've been able to build and really excited to be able to show it to you all.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And I'm Craig Harworth. Originally, we had Jose Fornell scheduled, but he was unable to join, so I'm going to stand in. I'm one of the partners of Impact Point, and I co-lead the Office of CFO Services. I have been with Impact Point for about 3 years, and really my background is a mix of financial advisory work as well as sitting in finance leadership roles, and cut my teeth quite a bit on the cash flow modeling aspect with about 10 years at Alvarez and Marsal, where I think really developed a great process for cash flow modeling and the considerations which we've put into Pegasus, and we'll walk you through in a minute. But similar to Ben, have sat in the finance leadership roles a couple of times with CFO, VP of FP&A, data analytics, treasury, and corporate development. So that's quick background on the team, and we'll go ahead and get going. So welcome everybody to our next installment of our webinar series. Previously, we've covered topics such as budgeting best practices, org design for efficient and healthy growth, and managing add-on acquisitions. If you missed any of those topics or would like more, feel free to reach out to us, and happy to get you what you need there. So very excited today to present Cash is King, Now Treat It Like Royalty with Pegasus Insights. Pegasus is our in-house developed tool. It's really driven by finance experts and how we model, and then enabled through world-class engineering. So briefly what we're going to cover today, and Ben and Issa are going to lead the bulk of the discussion, but we really wanted to give you some background on why we created Pegasus. It's coming from the pain points that we have as enablers of cash flow modeling, the things that we saw over and over, and additionally providing significant insights, actionable insights for you to use. We'll highlight ways that you can make your cash flow modeling and management process more efficient, as well as the value creation opportunities that provides to really drive EBITDA enhancement. We'll walk you through a quick implementation scenario, and we'll leave some time at the end for any questions. If you do have any questions as we're going through the materials, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will either try to address them during the presentations or get to them at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben to kick us off.
Yeah, so we get this question a lot. Why did we invest in, why did we build an in-house cash management tool? And I think it's really born from the questions that we were asking ourselves as we were deploying, various cash flow models across different organizations. I think it's natural for everybody to wonder, is this the most efficient way? Is this the best way to do it? And ultimately, sitting in the chair, being inside internal finance organizations or helping orgs with their solution, we really felt the pain points firsthand. And we started looking for, is there a better solution? Is there a better way to do it? And we didn't find any solution that really fit the use case, fit the need that we wanted in the market. So we decided to invest in our own. I'm going to talk about some of those questions that kept lingering and we kept coming back to as we were building Pegasus. But the first one is, do you ever feel like there are value creation opportunities that you're leaving on the table? It's very natural for complex businesses as they're growing to have uncertainty, whether that's in liquidity and forecasting. But when you're uncertain, you end up holding more cash, more capital on reserve for those potential what if scenarios. And every dollar of idle cash is a missed investment or a missed opportunity to invest it back into the business. And it's something we kept asking ourselves with every model we were doing. Another thing we were asking is, are we ever concerned that there are cash flow surprises in the model? Yeah, I've presented to boards, I've presented to CFOs, to CEOs, and it's always in the back of your mind, what if the data I have is incomplete? What if something has happened in the past 2 days since I last updated the model that could materially change something? These surprises, are sort of unavoidable when you're doing it in an Excel-based way, when you have a week or maybe even a month before you're refreshing it. And in worst case scenario, it could lead to something as severe as a covenant breach. But even just putting you in a precarious position, maybe a revolver draw, things like that. So it's something we always thought about. There has to be a better way to do this. Another thing I kept asking myself is this the best use of my time? I'm spending a lot of time copying and pasting Excels into other Excels, working with multiple sources, lots of messy data, maintaining complex formulas, looking at a model maybe somebody else had put together, trying to trace their formulas, why something changed. It takes a lot of time and it's all manual, repetitive work where I really wanted to be spending my days, on the value add, looking for opportunities to improve and actually help run the business instead of just the, again, repetitive manual tasks. And the last thing that I kept asking myself, and we kept asking ourselves at the Impact Point, and I think you're probably asking yourself this as well. That's probably why you signed up for this webinar in the first place. But how can I help lead the way? Technology is evolving every single day. We want to make sure that we're always on the right side of history and adopting the best solutions. And that allows us to enable us to move from reactive to proactive and also help be a strategic leader in our organization and pave the way for digitally enabled tools and transformation. So anyway, all of these problems, all of these questions we asked ourselves, we took and we distilled it into a set of must-haves, a set of features that make up Pegasus Insights. So this is our how. We felt it was really important to be able to enable multi-dimensional analysis, whether you want to forecast at the consolidated level, the business unit level, the entity, the account, or even drill down to the transaction level. You need all of that data in one place, easy to understand. And you want to use that because you need to enhance your decision making. You want to be able to make quick, better decisions about liquidity and financing and going after opportunities. Allowing improved visibility, best-in-class reporting, clickable, easy-to-use dashboards, drill down, whether it's on your actuals, your forecast, or your working capital. Running any business, it's natural to ask, what if? What if revenue goes up 20%? What if we take a hit on the operating margin? You need something that is flexible, allows you to account for those scenarios, while also being easy to use. And that leads us to the next one. We wanted something that's efficient. We wanted to spend as little time as possible on manual updates, manual exercises, and focus more on the things that matter. This helps us obviously save time, but also putting it in a tool, allowing this automation and efficiency, allows us to help organizations adopt a cash culture and better ownership across the organization, giving something that's easy to collaborate, easy for multiple people to work in, and allows people to take control of their budget, their projections, and what they're committing to, as well as being a single source of truth. I've looked through my email to find the latest version of a report someone sent me, or I've gone on a SharePoint and seen, multiple sources of the same document. It's not ideal, and you really don't want to find that you spent time working on a report only to find out the assumptions you were using were outdated. You really want something where you can log into every single day and see the most up-to-date forecast, most up-to-date assumptions, and know beyond any doubt that this is the true, version of the truth and the most recent look that we have. And then lastly, we wanted something that was quick and easy to set up and deploy. We've all been through an ERP integration, or we've been through various tools and projects that take 6 months, require several teams to come in, and it becomes a full-time job for a VP of finance. Yeah, that's not what we're looking for. Really, what we wanted was something that is, again, flexible, scalable, that can be deployed with very minimal input from the team during the deployment. About 2 to 3 hours per week we thought was a good target for us. And then lastly, something that could again be stood up very quickly, 4 to 5 weeks, get up and running, when you need your insights, not months and months or years afterwards. Something that stood up quickly, easily, in less than a month.
And just to clarify that, Ben, that is our deployment. That's not the weekly cadence once the tool is up and running. And to Ben's point, what we have done here is answered those pain points, solved for those, plus many others, and really taken cash flow and cash management to the next level in a format that you just can't accomplish in Excel. So we're going to show you the interface here in a little bit, but it's an easy use interface and really takes it to the next level as far as cash management.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Greg. And we distilled all of these features into just these 4 core modules that we incorporate into Pegasus. So what is Pegasus? It's a middle market cash management platform, that allows you to not only save time, but also use some value creation modules. So we think about your projections and your cash management as really helping save that time. Isa is going to tell you a little bit about some of these features in a little bit. But largely, as we think about your weekly recurring time, that would be saved on cash management and your cash forecasting. We also wanted to, really help organizations take control of their business and leverage all of that data that we're ingesting into the tool to give you actionable insights that can help you not only report and understand your projections, but how do you actually use this as a tool that you can improve, whether it's liquidity or EBITDA. So that's our cash cube and working capital. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Isa to do a couple summaries on the key features.
Thanks, Ben. And like you mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them to the chat. We'll get to them either now or towards the end. But again, we welcome your questions. So, like any good cash flow model, your actuals are its foundation. And this module is the foundation of Pegasus. It's what started it all for us. We know how much of a chore it can be to manually pull together actuals data from one or multiple systems, clean it up, and then try to make sense of it all. What this module allows you to do is that it allows organizations to see their cash actuals in as real time as possible because we're pulling those transactions directly from the banks themselves. We're also cleaning up all of that messy information through an AI model. That way it's very easy for you to read, easy for you to, digest and map. In this module, you'll be able to see your day-to-day liquidity on both a book and a bank basis. And with our flexible dashboarding and dynamic charting, you can create visualizations to illustrate your data in a way that makes most sense for you and your organization. Our cash management module saves you time, it eliminates manual errors, and it allows quick and easy access to the data that you need when you need it. And while seeing your day-to-day liquidity is important, we take it a step further with our cash forecasting module.
And Nisa, just to clarify here, one of the things that we've gotten really positive feedback and to clarify is that you can have multiple banking relationships, and this dashboard brings them all into one place. And you're not having to go out and query for each of those bank relationships. It's automatic, brings it in here. You see that consolidated view on one page.
Absolutely. All right. As a lot of you may know, building and maintaining those 13-week cash flow models is an incredibly involved process. But we simplify that by providing you the ability to build the cash flow model directly on the platform itself with ease, since all the data that you need is integrated automatically, like Craig mentioned. As the most flexible solution for forecasting in the marketplace, we give our users so many different ways to forecast their line items. You can forecast using rule-based logic, historical trends, P&L DSO roles with invoice level detail, an Excel upload, or just, typing it directly into the table itself. But not only that, we've implemented some AI functionality where if we intelligently determine that you have a recurring transaction for a specific counterparty, we'll actually suggest you a rule based on that pattern for you to forecast with. And all of this is available on our simple and incredibly intuitive interface. And as we know, forecasting isn't an exact science. Those cash flow surprises that we're trying to avoid, they're going to be inevitable. But that's why we built accounting for variance into Pegasus itself. When those variances happen, Pegasus helps you explain and reforecast them to ensure that nothing is ever slipping through the cracks. We'll help you refine your predictions, compare your forecast and actuals week to week, and see what your largest variances have been over time so that you can get the clearest view of your cash flow for smarter decisions. And now that I've shown you these two modules that make your life easier, make you a little bit more accurate, and give you some more visibility into your data, let me tell you about our next two modules that will enable value creation for your org and help you get more proactive rather than reactive. So the first of these two modules is the Cash Cube. Dealing with fragmented data scattered across multiple systems doesn't just make analyzing your cash actuals harder, it also makes it nearly impossible to get a really true, accurate picture of what your vendor spend looks like. So what does that mean? It, causes manual, time-consuming, error-prone processes and spreadsheets, limited visibility into hidden costs or maverick spend, and those opportunities to optimize those contracts or identify duplicate vendors only happen during strategic reviews. But Pegasus transforms how you manage those third-party spend insights by providing those real-time visibility of your spend insights across your entire organization. It allows you to see those optimization opportunities way before those strategic reviews come along. So you can use Pegasus to segment any way that you want, use it to identify those opportunities to renegotiate contracts, spot that duplicative spend, improve those terms all in real time. Use it to take back control of your vendor spend and increase EBITDA. And on the flip side, where the Cash Cube helps you increase your EBITDA, the working capital module helps you grow your liquidity and improve your working capital metrics. So working capital optimization, it's a challenge for all companies, especially growing ones with multiple systems, limited resources, and a lack of standardized processes. Many operate with like really lean teams, and it makes it that much more difficult to capture accurate, timely data, which then makes it so much harder to identify areas of improvements or measure that impact. Add in the complexity of mergers, seasonal demand, and siloed departments, and it's no surprise that efforts often stall, leaving thousands or millions unpaid or paid late. But by integrating directly with your ERPs, Pegasus harnesses your data to create a single reliable source of truth. With automated reporting, customizable dashboards, root cause analysis, and real-time visibility into metrics like your weighted average days late, your weighted average days to collect, DSO, you name it, and more, it enables you to take a more proactive approach to managing your working capital. We empower you to identify those risks early, drive cross-functional alignment, and unlock tangible cash flow improvements without burdening already overstretched teams. But now that I've given you a little bit of a taste of what we have to offer, I'll pass it back to Ben so he can actually show you the goods.
And Ben, as you're going through the review, we've had a couple questions come in that I think you'll highlight, but one of them involves multi-currency forecasting. And the other one is using AI to enrich actual bank transactions and clean them up. So I think you typically hit those on yours, but just wanted to call those out.
Thanks, Greg. And then just to confirm, you can see the landing page of Pegasus here.
Yes.
Great. So this is an example dashboard landing page that you can set up for Pegasus. And maybe just to talk through some of those questions at the beginning. As Craig mentioned, it's flexible. It can connect to your banks directly via API. So we're pulling that data in. We're also able to leverage feeds from an exchange to get any closing FX rates for anything that's not forecasting in your default currency. So we're able to convert that on an actuals basis so you can see what the total picture looks like in the currency of your choice. So obviously an example here, we have everything in USD, but if you want to report in Canadian dollars or euros, whatever your business needs, we can report that there. And then I'll cover some of the AI enrichment in a little bit. But in a nutshell, this is your dashboard. It's completely configurable to how you want to see your business. So at the top here, I've set up some widgets to tell me some key balances that I like, available bank balance, float, collections for the week. And then on the right-hand side, I have a quick snapshot summary of what the past 13 weeks of spend looks like. We have some double-click features into this. I'll show everybody in a minute. But just before I do that, I want to show an example, a couple more visuals I created here. One is my cash balances by account. You can see here, there's a lot of different filters you can apply, and you can get really customized to what you actually want to see. And then on the right-hand side, my forecast and available balance of my net cash flow. So really whatever you want to see, whatever you need to run the business here, you can set up. And it's as simple as clicking a few buttons to be able to add more views. Going over to my data tab. So one of the things that we do here is we allow you to, again, pull in all of that data from all of your different bank accounts. I don't know how many people have worked in detail with putting bank exports into a model here, but one of the things that can be a real challenge is your bank very rarely sends you nice, clean, this is who the counterparty is with information. What it gives you is sort of a jumbled mess. So we're able to take that and through some of our models, parse that and tell you who the clean counterparty is. So you get nice, clean, organized information across all of your banking relationships delivered right to you. You can set that up to view and export directly from the portal, or you can have it emailed directly to your inbox. Obviously, all of this allows insights into the platform, but we find just that convenience of not having to deal with multiple banking portals is a great value add for a lot of teams. We also have this cash flow table here. And what this is it's a 13-week view, both backwards and forwards of your organization. So this, again, it's super flexible, easy to use. If you ever want to understand any of these transactions, you can double click on each of these to expand it to see the underlying detail. Or if you see, one line item that might look off to you, you can just click on it and see what makes up those underlying transactions for you. So there's no digging through multiple spreadsheets, multiple models to see that. In addition to
I
your
think that's a
actuals,
huge advantage of this tool is, as we all know, as we've done 13 weeks in the past, at some point you have to leave your Excel model and go into other systems and look for that type of detail and that transactional level detail. Whereas this tool is integrated into those. And so as Ben just pointed out, if you have variances, if you have things that don't look right and you want to know the detail, it's as simple as double click through and the information's all available right here at your fingertips.
thank you, Craig. One of the other great things we have here is, again, the ability to see both your actuals and then your forecast over here as well. But not only that, this tool is very flexible. So, especially if you're managing a complex business, maybe you've done a couple of add-on integrations, or maybe you just have a large business that has multiple entities, and you want to be able to look across your organization and see different things. You're able to come here and filter this table to whatever unit and see however you would like to run the business. So if I'm interested in what's going on in one of these, I can click on it and the table will readjust and show me just the view for that entity. You're also able to change the display if you would like to see it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, completely up to you. We have weekly obviously by default, but however you want to manage your business, you can do so through Pegasus. And then of course, currency conversions, whatever currency you want to report in, we can offer it and see that here, as well as being able to look for the source currency as well. And then lastly, you're able to obviously configure the date to whatever view that you would like here. So really flexible, really great tool. I'll show you everybody in a minute how you actually forecast in Pegasus and some of the seamless UX that powers this. I want to talk about some other things that we also offer in this that won't have time to show, but want to voice over. We offer a credit manager tool. So if you have facilities, whether that's a revolver or delayed draw, you're able to add this into Pegasus so you can see not only what does my cash position look like, but how much total liquidity do I have available and what's my potential headroom on any of these assets. And then the last one we have is the check monitoring functionality. You're able to use this to see what checks you have outstanding, what's cleared since the last time you logged in, and really use it to help with that month-end close reconciliation process. There's nothing worse than going purely on a bank basis and then a check that you were not expecting to hits a week early and it throws off your whole model. The great thing about Pegasus is we're able to tell you, again, both that bank and book basis reporting so you understand what's actually in the bank account and what you've committed to in terms of total cash flow. But this is a good time to move over to the cash forecasting module here to give you the understanding as to how this can really save you time. The key thing here in this solution, and Isa hit on it earlier, is flexibility. So what we allow you to do is forecast in the way that makes sense to you. If you would like to forecast anything at the category level or even down to the vendor level, you can do that with Pegasus seamlessly. The other great thing we allow is consolidation across multiple entities. So you can see here, I'm forecasting by business unit. This is my base case scenario. But if I want to, I can go into, business unit 2, business unit 3. And that's great to allow you to easily structure your forecast. But the other great thing is if you're a complex business with multiple teams, you can set up permissioning so whoever is closest to the data is able to actually own and use the forecast. And you can set it so they only see the business unit that is relevant to them. So once you've done that and you've figured out how you want to forecast, it's really as simple as maintaining these rules once a week. So the way we think about Pegasus is you set up a line item of what you want to forecast here. So by default, it will be the categories that you set up when you do your initial forecast, but you can come and configure these yourself at any point in time. So say I decide that I want to expand, this line item to see some of the top underlying vendors. It's as simple as clicking a button and it'll give me the option to forecast the top 3, 4, or 5 counterparties by spend over the past 13 weeks. I can use my top 80, 90% of spend. I can put every counterparty on here if I want, although we've seen some businesses where this can be significant, so not everybody wants to forecast 500 line items. But if you want to strike a good mix, you can always pick a subset of your counterparties here and choose which ones you want to forecast. You're not locked in to any of these at any time. You can always come here and add a new counterparty or delete one of the ones that you've forecasted against and refresh your assumptions that way. So once you've sort of aligned on your structure of your forecast, this is something you're generally not changing on a week-to-week basis, but it's good to get set up once there. The way we think about forecasting is we have a rule for each category. However, you're never locked into any of these rules. Should for whatever reason something change, maybe, you think it's good to use the average of the prior 13 weeks or go based on AP, you can always come here and override any of these lines here. So just by clicking in the cell, you can enter whatever value you would like there. We're also able to offer Excel upload functionality. So should you want to reference that for maybe just a short-term change, you can just push an Excel into this and we'll take the forecast directly from there. Or again, you can directly interface with the tool and use our forecasting here. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the forecasting mechanics that we have here. Isa said there's an AI-powered tool that allows us to go and predict when we have recurring vendors, recurring transactions. In that event, you'll see that pop up as a contextual menu. It's only going to show when we're confident that this is a recurring pattern, so you don't have any false positives, false confidence when you're using the tool. The other ways you're able to forecast is using your AR and AP and P&L to forecast out for the next however many weeks you want. Would be worth mentioning that we primarily see this used as a 13-week cash flow modeling tool. However, you can use this to model out as far as you want. If you would like to do a 52-week or a 2-year cash forecast, you're more than capable, more than able to use the tool to do that. However you think about running your business, you can replicate in the tool. So I talked about the AP and P&L forecast. You can also use these next to above this. These are designed to be quick hits, so you don't quick hits, easy to deploy, don't need to go through any other menus. But we also offer the ability to mirror the past X weeks. So say we have something that's very stable, every 2 weeks we see this pattern. You can just set it to repeat what's happening over and over again. Again, very easy, just a couple of clicks, no complex formulas. Then we're also able to, again, even if we don't have an AI recurring flag on it, you are able to look for recurrence based on trailing activity. So you can pick to recur, weekly, monthly, quarterly, based on the averages it's seeing for that category for you here. I'm going to show you next some rule-based logic you can assign and talk about a couple use cases for it. But after that, I'm going to circle back on the AR and AP mechanics we have here. Because the really cool thing is not only can you use a DSO-based average to forecast out, you can actually go down to the very specific invoice level if you would so like to. But before we do that, let me show you some of our simple interface for creating rules. So when you come and you think about setting up your forecast for the first time, Typically we don't see a need for our clients to work through this every week. They're only really interacting with this when they have material variances or changes, or they just want to do a complete start from scratch reforecast maybe once a year. But when you come in here, building rules, building forecasts is very intuitive. If you have something like payroll as an example, you can come in here and maybe it's predictable, you're able to come in here and specify a manual input. So maybe that's $500,000 and that recurs monthly, every month on the 15th. But maybe that's not all of it. Maybe you have a complex, maybe you have a more complex payroll and you have $1 million bonus that's paid out on the 31st. You can always stack these rules on top of each other, and then it allows you to combine and make the forecast that you would like there. Another way you can determine what amount you would like to use is you can use the standard formula here. So you can use average, min, max of prior weeks to guide your forecast and give you that quick end day there. You're also able to use some custom formulas. So these are some of the more complex items. Maybe there's a sales tax that's a function of another line. You can come in here and use these formulas and references in Pegasus directly. So maybe that's it's B2B customer collections times 0.25. You're able to come in here and easily write these formulas. I will note that the syntax is very, very similar to Excel. So we do see typically when our users come in, there's about a day or two of learning time to really get down the formulas. But if you're a power Excel user or even an intermediate Excel user, we generally see no problems with teams picking this up. So I said I'd circle back on the AR and AP role mechanics right here. So one thing I wanted to flag, and maybe you noticed it, is down here we have this advanced view. So for any of these forecast items, should you want to double click into more detail, you can do that by clicking here. So what I get when I see this is this summary of what I'm currently forecasting, what my original forecast was, and then what's happened over the prior 13-week periods, as well as some helpful KPIs of what's the average transaction size, how many invoices do I have outstanding, what's the average days late for this customer. I can use this to really help inform my forecasting here. And then down here, this is a great example of it actually. You can see you have AR due of 1.6 million, but out of that, most of this is in this $1.3 million, very, very large invoice. So when you have scenarios like that, or maybe you want to just add a little bit more specificity to your forecast, you're able to come here and forecast actually at the invoice level detail instead of using just an average overall. So I can come here and I can assign this invoice to be paid on any date, and it'll flow through the tool directly there. So Isa also mentioned that we have some variance analysis tools here. On a weekly basis, really where we see people spending time is looking at variance and how their forecast compared to actuals here. So it makes it very easy to understand and see. So you can see here I have my forecast, what actually happened, and it's flagging to me the top hits where I might want to go and have another look. It's easy for these to fall through the cracks when you don't have a tool. But down here, this delivers my actions right to me. So you can see here, it's flagged that I was forecasting $500,000, whereas actually I only saw $18,000. I can come here and with some simple UX, just a couple clicks, I can reforecast. I can also add my commentary. So anyone on the team who might be coming in and auditing this, they can quickly have a look and understand what I was thinking and as to why I changed or redid this forecast. So you can see here, a couple helpful questions. Is this just timing? Is there an amount variance? Was this forecasted erroneously? And then lastly, do I want to reforecast it? Yes or no? So super simple to use, makes that variance process a breeze, and allows you to make sure that nothing's slipping through the cracks. Lastly, down here, we've got some great information on what my biggest misses were from previous weeks. So I'm able to use this to see, do we have a trend? Do we have opportunities for improvement, and how to identify them? It's very, very, again, easy to use. And then as you work with Pegasus, as you forecast in Pegasus, it helps the system learn, and it will help prompt you to make sure your forecasts are accurate and you stay more certain. Want to shift out of the forecasting now and go over to some of our working capital toolkit. So as East mentioned, we're able to leverage this as a tool for understanding what are the trends with our AR, what are the trends with our AP, and really use this for targeting actions. So similar to what we were showing on the cash actual side, we can create dashboards to show us what our AP, collections, disbursements forecasts look like. You can see here a great example of my AR by buckets over time. So I can start to look at trends. Are my overdues growing? Are they shrinking? How can I monitor this and how can I improve this over time? So how does this work? It's powered by these working capital ledgers, which are going to pull directly from your ERP for you automatically every single day. So there's no manual updates for anybody. It just flows. And then we're able to use all of this data, all of this insights to build the Pegasus tool itself. So some of those example KPIs, and we won't have time to cover everything, but just want to show some quick hit table I set up earlier that you can use to understand your customers and vendors. So example here, I'm looking at my top customers. I can see out of them what my total outstanding balance is, how many invoices I have outstanding, what the current AR is, what my overdue AR is, and then importantly, I'm able to see my average days late, average days to collect, and all of these helpful KPIs that'll help. We're also able to leverage these trends down to the invoice level. So any invoice that you're questioning, when is this going to come in? It's a bit wishful thinking to think that all invoices come in on their exact due date. I'm sure everybody's been chasing AP clerks in their career at some point, but we're able to use past patterns and past trends to tell you when we expect them to pay you based on their weighted average days late and the standard deviation that powers the tool and the forecasting there. So these are some of the great tools. Another thing to flag is, again, you can filter this to entity level. However you run your business, it really helps you pinpoint, what entities do a better job at maybe dealing with certain customers. Do we have a holistic trend or is it isolated to a certain group? This allows, again, complete flexibility. And as you're looking to improve DSO, as you're looking for those strategic terms, you can leverage Pegasus to help keep your teams accountable, and then also allows you to show where the big opportunities are and spend your time the most effectively. The last thing I want to show before we go into some Q&A, this is our cash cube. So we talked about all the data that we're pulling in from the system. We're able to spit out reports for you that tells you, what your spend is in each entity by each category and then a trend over time. So, should you think there's an opportunity maybe in marketing, the place you would start to start sizing this opportunity and how we would go about best addressing it would be by looking at, historical trend reports and getting first a really good understanding as to what we are all spending with marketing. So you can go and use this filter to click here, set the range you're interested in, whether it's quarterly, whatever, if there's business units that are in or out of scope, and then lastly, what categories you want to use. So maybe just an example, purchasing here, can apply it, and then I can see, all of the counterparties who meet in my date range on these accounts. And then any of these, you can move them, configure them. There's different views you can add. So a great, really powerful, really easy to use tool, completely powered by the data that's already in the system. And again, allows you the utmost flexibility there. So going to move back to the slides for a minute, because I bet the question on everybody's mind is sort of, how long does this take to implement? Typically we see this being able to get stood up in less than a month, but with our bank integrations, they're quite seamless and normally take a couple of days. And a lot of teams were able to get them into the tool and starting using it within the first week. However, even while the implementation is ongoing, there's not a massive commitment from the team. We typically see about a 1 to 2 hour need from the business's controller for the first couple weeks, and then ongoing check-ins with an FP&A lead as we make sure that we're setting up the tool in the best way that meets your use case, and then obviously training on you on it and making sure that you're set up to use it forever in the future independently. And then lastly, we also like to work with the CIO, typically 2 to 3 hours per week, as we help integrate with their systems and get connected to the ERP so we can pull all of that data in seamlessly for you.
And I think it's important to note here, Ben, that when we talk about the implementation, we've all had experiences with SaaS implementations before that have been, months and months, if not years, to implement. We're measuring our implementation in weeks, not even longer term than that. So if you think about a simplistic organization that has an ERP, a bank account, that could be potentially a couple of weeks up and going, fully rolled out. And then obviously if there's some more complexity, a little bit longer. But we'd love to talk to each of you about any specific use cases, and we can come up with something that's very specific to that organization.
Great. Thank you, Craig. And then the last thing we want to say is that we are running a special Q2/webinar promotion here. So anybody who scans this link and signs up for a follow-up conversation with this, we'll be offering 6 months of complimentary licensing. So great way to learn more about your business and learn how we can help you. Feel free to scan this QR code, and then anybody who scans it and anyone you refer to bring into that follow-up conversation, we'll offer that promotion too. So with that, I think we'll open it up to a Q&A, unless Issa or Craig, do you have anything else?
No, I think you did a fantastic job. Appreciate everybody tuning in and looking at the demo. And as Ben said, happy to answer questions at the moment.
Yeah, we've gotten 2 questions so far in the Q&A. The first one being, how is Pegasus able to categorize actual transactions from the bank statements? Is there a mapping exercise that needs to happen, or is this AI driven? The answer there is that yes, there is a mapping exercise that we enable through Pegasus. You have the ability to map your transactions one by one as a bulk edit or using low to no code automation. AI driven mapping, however, is actually something that we're actively researching and are hoping to have available to our users soon. We've gotten 2 additional questions. How does Pegasus handle multi-currency forecasting? You can answer this one live.
Yeah, answer that one live. But you can specify what currency you would like to forecast in, and then because we're working with various exchanges to get the closing FX rates, we're able to do those currency conversions live for you, so you can see your actuals and then your forecast in the currency of choice, and you're also able to convert it into any currency that you would like to see your forecast in.
All right, cool. We've got a question from Kevin. What would be the high level cost to implement, and what is the base annual fee?
Yeah, great question. So normally base annual fee, annual license costs $15,000 for the full suite of products that we went through. Implementation is quoted on an hourly basis. The big variable there is how much of the forecast you'd like white glove set up for you, and then how many ERPs would you like to connect to. Normally that cost ranges anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000.
All right, fantastic. We have one from Michaela. What is the source for FX rates? Is it possible to change the source to more closely align with our bank?
Yeah, we have a feed from an exchange, but if your bank offers FX rates that we can pull, we're happy to work with you there.
All right, cool. It's all the questions that we got from the Q&A. Anyone else have anything that they're interested in that we can talk more about?
And while we're waiting for additional questions to come in, some general questions that I think you guys have all seen commonly during, other demos. What systems is Pegasus able to connect with, and are there any limits to the connectivity?
Yeah, great question, Maggie. That is something that obviously we get a lot. But most ERPs offer API connectivity, so we're able to leverage the connection there. If you've done any type of EDW or linkage project, you're probably API and Pegasus compatible. So generally we're able to offer integrations for you with most ERPs and set that up.
Great. And then one more on my end. Why did you guys choose to focus on cash modeling? And is there any kind of teaser that you can give in future features that are coming soon?
Yeah, so cash modeling is a very obvious sort of underserved market, and I think we had a little fun with it in the demo, or in the title of this webinar, that cash is king. Why not treat it like royalty? as you think about, your P&L and your ERP, people typically have very dedicated solutions for that. But where it often falls through the gap is liquidity planning and cash flow planning. So we really found there weren't any tools in the marketplace that really gave the need that a lot of teams needed to do that. And then in terms of future functionality, we're pushing new things all the time. One of the big things that we're teasing in the future is in the next couple months is actually AR follow-ups. So you'll be able to use the tool to help get payments faster by reaching out directly to people you set using no code, easy to set up automations.
Great, thank you very much. That's all on my end.
Okay, well, it looks like there are no more questions coming in through the chat either. So again, appreciate everybody joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. We would love to give you a more personalized demo and any potential use cases. And it's been talked about. We have a complimentary licensing for 6 months for those of you who attended or any of your referrals. So appreciate everybody's time and look forward to speaking with everybody more about Pegasus.
Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, everyone.